obviously there's a lot of guys who had difficult days at the office the other day for different reasons. I think two of the ones I felt most sorry for were Dante and Manyoma. Manyoma especially because he was so close to starting that game, and I kept toing and froing between the team to pick, and then he ends up coming on the pitch and coming off the pitch because obviously we go down to 9 men, and then we had to make some changes. I think that game was, even when I watched it back, it frustrated me even more that every time we made a change, instantly we conceded a goal. So obviously we made the change just before with Josh coming off, then straight away Miguel gets sent off, and then you're in a different set of circumstances, and then you make the subs before the corner because we weren't allowed to make them before, and then those guys come in and suddenly we concede the corner, and now I'm wishing, wow, I wish I had Manyoma on the pitch because we're down to 9 men and now we need a goal. So it was a difficult game in that sense, but I think for those two, difficult day at the office, of course. Zach made the errors in the game, and I spoke to him the next day, and what I said to him was I couldn't care less about the mistakes. I mean, we all make mistakes, and he's in a position where unfortunately those mistakes bear the most responsibility because you're the last line of defence. So what I care a lot about is your reaction, and the measure of the man is how you respond in those situations. And he's been first class this week, so been a lot of good performances. And being brutally honest, I still don't know the team. I toyed around with something yesterday, toyed around with something different this morning. I'm certainly getting close. I know the tactical plan I want to play with, but just not quite the personnel just yet. So one more day to decide.
And welcome to Rapids Rant. I am Don Pablo. That was Rapids coach Matt Wells talking about where he's going, what he's looking for, who is he going to play this weekend, and the media availability midweek that he did was very interesting. He said a lot, and coach speak usually don't get that much out of these guys, but he did say it. I did ask the question on Blue Sky. Follow Rapids Rant on Blue Sky. I live post during the match. Usually away matches, home matches. You're watching. You're here. Away, you get the second screen experience with Rapids Rant, of course. And he was talking about what he said, and yeah, all right, we don't care about the mistakes, although that was a major one by Zach Steffen, giving up the tying goal in the 74th minute, 77th minute, in the match against Toronto. Entertaining to say the least, and I got more to say on that in a minute, but Rapids, even down a man, and coach said it in his media availability, which I didn't play. I only try to play one, and even that was a really long answer. I only try to play like one soundbite, although he did talk about starters and how he picks the team a little bit in the other one, but I thought this one was interesting just because I had said that, and Rapids go down, obviously, in Toronto after a 2-0 lead, being up 2-0 in the 65th minute. 54th minute. And after the Rapids came back, down a man, obviously, in the 35th, when Jackson Travis gets sent off. And that was a pretty major mistake as well. Just kind of going studs up on the Toronto player. But man, and going into halftime 0-0, I felt the Rapids were going to be lucky to get 1 point, get a result, just keep the status quo in the second half, and get out of there, get out of Canada with a point. And obviously, Toronto came back with their own red card in the 49th, so right after halftime. So it was looking up. Rapids go up 2-0 with goals by Paxton Aronson and then Keegan Rosenberg, who I was excited for, the captain getting a goal. The elder statesman on the Rapids. I guess the DiPietro older than him now. I should probably look that up. But he was, and Keegan's been here the longest. So was happy for the captain to get one, but then tragedy struck, and the red card on Miguel Navarro. I mean, I disagreed. Just as the announcers, the presenters doing the show, doing the game, but it was kind of an accumulation red card, and so the Rapids go down again. Then Zach Steffen makes that huge mistake. Someone could say overconfidence, and it's the ball that you get a million times, and it was just the time that it got away from him, giving up the tying goal for the Rapids, an own goal. And then in the 85th, Josh Sargent comes on and wins the game for Toronto, and that was it. And I'll say this, entertaining, as I said, entertaining to say the least. And it was ironic. It was against Robin Fraser. I remember, well, it had to be 3 years ago when they played that game, and I forget who the opponent, because it was a forgettable game for the Rapids, and it was just literally Lawless Abubakar trying to create something for 60 minutes. Like, it was started Lawless, 60 minutes for him just trying to create, and the other team knew what was going to happen. And there's a difference of the other team knowing what's going to happen and not really, because you could tell whoever Lawless was playing, I can't remember, but it was just, there's a difference between knowing what's going to happen and the other team not being able to stop it, and knowing what's going to happen and the other team just being like, okay, this is all you can do. This is all you're going to do for the rest of the game. And that's the Rapids under Fraser. And then obviously Toronto getting the victory this past weekend, going down in Canada. And like I said, you can't say the Rapids aren't entertaining so far this year, but man, those mistakes, and Zach, you get like one of those. You get one of those, and as the coach said Coach Wells said in the soundbite, just hope I don't care about mistakes. You just don't make that mistake again, because the measure of a man is learning from his mistakes. And paraphrasing what Coach Wells said. So, yeah, just can't happen again. Maybe a little overconfidence. Hate for that to be in a match. I've said it, not every show, but most shows. Rapids missed by 1 point. 1 point the playoffs last year, even for the wild card game, for the play-in midweek. And there that was 3 that maybe they should have got at least 1 point when you're down a man, and it gets to 10 on each side eventually. But c'est la vie, onward and upward for the Rapids, hosting Houston Dynamo. Sam Vines signed with them since the beginning of the year, since he was let go by the Rapids in the first week of the season. More on Houston in a moment. We'll get some schedule updates. We'll look at some table talk, and we're also going to be talking about some branding for the World Cup. They released the posters a couple weeks ago. If you look at TikTok, Don Pablo on TikTok, I got a couple posters, especially the one in Kansas City where I'm going, and we'll talk about those in a minute here. But thanks for listening. Obviously disappointed by the result last week. Houston coming to town this week, and it should be good weather for late spring. And it's looking up for, and the Rapids got 3 home games in a row, although one will be at Mile High on the 18th of April. Obviously, Inter Miami coming to town. Their brand new stadium looks awesome. The Miami will be hosting some World Cup matches, not in that stadium, in the Hard Rock where the Dolphins play, in the big stadium where University of Miami plays football as well, the national champion runner-ups. So big game for them. And we'll look at branding and positives. Yappy still played well. Paxton Aronson continues showing out for the Colorado Rapids here after maybe a slow start in the first couple of weeks, or maybe just getting to know his teammates, but he seems to be hitting a stride or ramping up to some mid-season play. Anyway, mid-season experience. Although in a couple of weeks here, it's all going to stop for World Cup and MLS. So it's going to be kind of a sprint to that. And Miguel Navarro, I thought he looked good. It was just it's getting used to the Rapids playing a different style. And just as I said, it was opposite a couple of years when Fraser played. Coach Wells, and you should really go look at his media availability and what he said about fair play. Like he said, the only trophy he doesn't care about is the fair play trophy, which, you know, should that even be a trophy? Like, should that even be an award? Like, whatever. Like, fouls are part of the game, right? Playing tough, getting the toughness. It's like the Las Vegas Raiders, but when they're in Oakland, they were known, they're the Raiders. They're the Pirates on their helmet. They're known for being tough. They're known for taking penalties, and they led the NFL in penalties for several seasons. And that's kind of what they were known for. The last couple of years under Armis, take away Kevin Cabral's red card that one match against LA, and they would have been in first place. So the last couple of years, looking at that and playing fair and trying to win, maybe quote the right way, whatever that means. And there is unwritten rules in soccer, just like every sport. But there is a thing to be said for the professional foul, which is my favorite kind of foul. The professional foul, which is fine, and that's how it is. And soccer, they're known for honor. They're known for being fair in some aspects of the game, but it's also a tough, as I said, game of inches. Life's a game of inches. Thanks, Al Pacino. Any given Sunday. And I like playing tough. I like the toughness. First of all, I like the goals being scored by the Rapids. Missed that last year, even though that was Armis's thing, was scoring goals for the. Kind of missed that last year, but last year's in the past, we got a couple in Toronto, and I was like, oh man, I was thinking during the game, like, there's some magic. Rapids magic happens in Toronto. Of course, 2010 MLS Cup Championship was played there in cold weather. Rapids victorious. Makuma Kanji, love that guy. And I thought it was going to happen. It didn't. Moving on to Houston and a couple Rapids home game. They start the homestand, and the Rapids have played more road games on the season than home matches. So I'm glad they get to have a couple here. And in the second half of the season, they'll be playing at Dick's Sporting Goods Park a lot more. All right. So I like the toughness the Rapids are going to bring. We're going to be known for that. We're going to be known for let's not get any double red card matches the rest of the season, I hope. But we'll see. World Cup coming up. And, the big events and they're known for mascots. They're known for the branding. They're known for logos. And I pulled my poster off the wall. The one soccer thing my wife lets me get in the main area of our house, although studios has soccer. My bedroom has a soccer poster or two. The loft has some soccer stuff, but the like one thing that people come over, they see it. They see the Love Wins poster right there, which is, and I forget the name of the artist, but he did a mural on the north east side of the stadium and the ramp over there. He designed the jerseys, the away jerseys the Rapids had the past couple seasons, which was kind of had some triangles. It kind of had some different shapes, but they gave that poster away, and I made sure to snag one of those because it really is. It's really good, and I grew up with kind of this kind of stuff. My dad was a master's degree of art history. And he's an artist, starving artist his whole life, just like me, in a different way, spoken word. But he did like branding. He did shapes. He was always doodling, and he had a lot of books on this subject. Is the other thing. When he wasn't, doodling, drawing his art, he was always practicing. Another thing that I would say for young people when they get into the radio or the content creation business, you always keep doing it. You keep doing it. You don't know your voice. You're really imitating what you hear and what your favorite podcasters or radio guys when I was younger, because podcasts didn't exist, or YouTube creators that didn't exist either. I'm an old man. I get it. But you develop your own voice, right? And it's just like that in art. It's just like that with any art. So I would say that watching watching the art for the World Cup is you see many different styles, because is it 16 different match sites, and everybody has their own different kind of thing. And in the United States, everybody had a different way of doing it. They all commissioned, or they had contests to do their art. Mexico had one guy do all three sites for Mexico. We'll look at that here in a second. But I would really say, like, gives me way more appreciation for the Love Wins guy, and just the message and branding the Rapids had for those couple years they had this jersey. And I got one in the closet over there, so I'm excited to have that one. And like I said, looking at the art, and we'll get to that here in a second. Let me change up the. Oops. All right, so there was a piece on The Athletic. Palomar soccer. He does soccer for The Athletic, and he is really good. And he did a deep dive into the posters when they came out, and I found it really interesting, because you kind of see, the difference of the regions. And obviously, football's a world sport, and you get to see from different regions what their kind of flavor is. And the first one that grabbed me was the Seattle one. And I was like, man, it's kind of simple. It kind of shows, some old school. It kind of has like some totem pole, like some of the old Native American influences in it. It has it's Mount Rainier, right? It's not Mount Hood's in Portland, in Oregon. Mount Rainier, and it has Space Needle. It's got your kind of old school in it. And I got some friends that are going up to Seattle for the World Cup. I'm very excited for them. And they get to see this, and it looks good, and I like it, kind of the old school style of Seattle. Then there's Vancouver, up in Cascadia region, and they have the totem pole, the old Native American style art in it, with the orca killer whale and their bridge and the mountains over there. And I thought that's really good as far as a branding style, with it, and simple. Maybe you could kind of tell the region by what you're looking at there, without it explicitly saying Vancouver, like. And I think it's pretty good. And then you get to the Mexico posters, and they'll have the same flair. They're all made by the same guy. Designed all three of them. Obviously, Guadalajara, Mexico City, and forgive me, what's the other one? Monterrey, of course. And I just thought those ones were really good. They kind of have the Mexican flair, and they all look good together, by the way, all three of them. They have their stadiums in the background, their kind of regional things. They're busy, but not really. They're inlaid kind of in a bigger print. I don't know. I like all the Mexico City posters. I watched Philadelphia, and there's it's like 3 soccer balls coming out. There's an American flag in there. They're obviously hosting a match on the 250th birthday of the United States, July 4th, 2026. So that's awesome. That match, I think I have some friends going to that one over there. But I watched it's not my favorite, like 2D sitting on the wall. I watched the unveiling, and the unveiling actually is at a flower show in Philadelphia. So they made it 3D where the soccer balls are popped out and in the like little cone kind of thing that it made it like look. It looks better 3D than 2D is what I was gonna say. Although, okay, but we'll continue here. And I like the overall poster, by the way. The overall logo, if I can get it to come up here. They had the Canadian influence, Mexican influence, and then the Stars and Stripes from the United States. And there's a soccer player in the middle. But the Mountie hat on the Canadian goose was awesome. And then there's a bear, and he's wearing a baseball hat for some reason. But, whatever. So I like that one. And the first thing I saw when I looked at the Los Angeles World Cup poster was, oh man, GTA. Are they like are they stealing their? But the more I see Los Angeles, the more I like it because it's a soccer player and he kind of had his leg up and he's about to kick they're the only poster, Los Angeles poster. They didn't like just put a soccer ball in the in somewhere in the poster. And it he's kind of the soccer player is kind of kicking the sun, setting sun anyway, and it's sunken in back, and I just like it. I like it, although it definitely reminds me of GTA 5 vibes. But what are you gonna do? So that one's cool. And the thing is, I got a lot of posters on my walls. Obviously, you look back here behind me, you get the Rapids jersey signed by the team. Man, that was circa 2013, 2012, I think. The Black Pumas and some other. But I got posters all over the house. I don't rotate them like art, but I have one. I have one from the Costa Rica game, the Snow Classico at DSG, which is still one of my favorite matches of all time. That was the weather. That was all around awesome time for that. The San Francisco poster, which we're looking at next. I like the simplicity. It's got the Bay Bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge, the Stanford trees, big redwoods on the side, and then Levi Stadium where Broncos won Super Bowl 50. Can't get mad at that. I like the San Francisco. It's kind of simple, and in a way, like branding is difficult, and you never know how people are going to react until you see it. And then the Toronto one, they're the only people that went Art Deco, like early 1900s, early to mid 1900s kind of thing. They got the red and blue, which I thought was cool. Kind of mixes, try not to go into politics, but all the Canadian national teams wear red, and then obviously the most famous team, the most popular team in Canada, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're blue, so they got that in there in the old Art Deco style, and I think it's awesome. Canadian player, and then there's a maple leaf that's kind of a recessed design. So good job, Canada. Good job, Toronto, on that one. Boston, they put a big crab in there. And maybe the back of the crab kicked a soccer ball. There's some underwater. It's okay. It's something. I would say Boston if I were looking at it. New York, New Jersey. The Dallas poster is a cowboy with a cowboy hat on doing a bicycle kick. He's cool, and it actually goes pretty well with the Houston one, who is a soccer player in a spacesuit getting a ball in the chest. He's doing the Houston signal with his hand, and his cowboy hat's falling off of him. That's a direction. The Miami, I actually like the Miami poster. It's a flamingo with shin pads, and standing on one leg, as flamingos do. So there's that. I like the Miami poster, the theme. They love their pink neon situation down there, which is cool. That is the 80s. Maybe it'll come back again one day. And then Atlanta, they went in a direction. It's the soccer ball, the golden soccer ball in the peach pit. There's some Georgia O'Keeffe flowers in there. I can't remember what those are. And then they put a subway train or the elevated train on there. So there's that. Maybe that's how you get to the stadium in there. So they're showing off their public transportation in their World Cup poster. It's a choice. But overall, I like the posters. The World Cup, but I thought it was funny. I was looking at the piece that Pablo Maurer did for The Athletic, and he talked to the guy that did the World Cup for and did the Olympics for Mexico in the 60s and 70s, and he came back for 86 World Cup. And he said, and basically he created a font that Mexico still uses today, 50 years later, 60 years later. And, to keep that branding from the 60s and be like your, people remember it. That's pretty good, I would say, right? It's an artist thing that you'll remember for a long time. And he didn't like the 26 logo at all, which I kind of agree with him. You can't draw it. It's not, I would say, distinctive. So it's whatever. People are going to wear it. I bought the posters from it with it on there. So call that what it is. Overall, I like the branding, of course. Kansas City, they did a scarf. I thought it was going to look better in person. But we'll see. We'll see what happens when we go down there, what it looks like in like giant. But it was a choice. I wish I could see what designs like got second and third place in these contests, right? Although, would they let us? I don't know. Probably won't let us. They probably have a good reason to not let us. But whatever. So we'll get back to that. And branding and art is all subjective, by the way. You like what you like. It's all cool. It's your aesthetic. I just take whatever I say with a grain of salt, which people usually do. This is Rapid Rant. Thank you for listening. I am Don Pablo. Follow us on Blue Sky. Go to YouTube, Mountain Time Sports Report. Go to your podcasting services. Find Rapid Rant. Thanks to host Emeritus Caberto for posting those, doing some sound engineering for us. And yeah, find us there, and we'll be everywhere. This week, we did have some Champions Cup CONCACAF first legs of the quarterfinals. Nashville and Club America, 0-0s in Tennessee. It was LAFC 3 shutting out Cruz Azul 0. That was in Los Angeles. So a couple matches in Mexico coming up here for those teams. Seattle went to Mexico. They got blown out 2-0 by Tigres, and Toluca for LA Galaxy 2. Second legs of those matches coming up. I think it's next week. Yep, next week. So those are going to be on Wednesday. Some Tuesday, some Wednesday. And there's some Tuesday games for the Rapids, but let me get through the schedule that is coming up this weekend. Cincinnati's visiting Toronto. LA Galaxy's going to Austin. That'll be a notable game. Maybe I'll watch that in the morning. The 11 a.m. game. By the way, I like the Rapids early game. Give me Saturday. There was a Nuggets game at nighttime I got to watch. That was awesome. Spurs Nuggets, right? And then no, it wasn't Spurs. It doesn't matter. Then I had my evening free. I wish we had more morning games / early afternoon games in Colorado. And then I went to the Rockies, and that's what it was. Spurs, and got to see them. By the way, Colorado Rockies, the Denver Broncos ownership bought 40% of the Colorado Rockies. They announced that today. So that's going to be interesting. I do have some thoughts on the concessions situation that happened down there. And I don't know if people saw the TikTok of the guy bringing rotisserie chicken into the stadium. That was I would go look that up, actually. The guy that brought rotisserie chicken into Coors Field on TikTok, that guy made me laugh. It was something. So anyway, Miami, New York, that's always going to be fun. Those are always games to watch. And then, like I said, the Rapids hosting Houston Dynamo, San Diego, and Minnesota. That'll be a game to watch. Maybe when you get home, maybe on your phone at halftime of the Rapids match. And then Sunday, the national TV, not national TV game, Apple TV game, Columbus host Orlando. We'll see where they're going in a minute. Excuse me. So we'll get to standings here. Rapids, they went down in the standings, actually. We'll look at the rest. San Diego has kind of fallen off these past couple games. Still early goings. I understand 6 games played on the season. Houston has only played 5. But LAFC leads the Western Conference 16 points, 5 wins, 1 draw. 0 goals against LAFC in MLS regular season play. 0 goals against. So there's that. Vancouver's second. And San Jose tied with 15 points. Salt Lake City in 4th, 13 points. Over Seattle, also 13 points. Seattle has played 5 games away, only one game at home, and they're in 5th place. So, Seattle is going to be something of a home team situation here. And good for them. Man, that's they might rise in the ranks even more. Dallas and San Diego, 6th and 7th with 11 points. As I said, Colorado, 8th place with 9. 1 over Minnesota with 8. And Houston, last team in the playoffs right now, is 6 points. Austin, also on 6th. They're in 11th. They lose the tiebreaker. Galaxy got out of the basement with 6 points. St. Louis, 5. Portland and Kansas City tied with 4. Kansas City, At least they got some points, man. They were having a rough one though. Their goal differential is -8. Rapids +3 on the season, and they were hovering at like 0 last year or negative. So as I said, glad for the Rapids. Their goal scored are looking better. At least that's projected for the rest of the season. In the Eastern Conference, Nashville on top, 13 points. 3 teams with 11, New York City, Charlotte, Miami, Chicago 10, Toronto 10, New York 10. So very, very close bunch in the top 7 in the Eastern Conference. DC United 7 in 9th place, New England. I think I lost some connections here on the but we'll figure it out. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Rapids Right now. It was Columbus 5, Atlanta in 12th with 4 points, Montreal 3, Orlando 3, Philadelphia 0 points on the season, -7 goals. At least they scored some goals. 4 goals on the season, -7 differential overall. 0-3 at home, 0-3 on the road. And I realize it's still early going, but Rapids on track for the number 1 pick from the Philadelphia Union. We own Philly's entire draft. The Rapids own Philly's entire draft this year. I mean, maybe it's never too early to make that proclamation. As I said, Rapids playing and hosting Houston this weekend after a couple of weekends on the road. There was amazing weather last Saturday. Got to go out and enjoy in the afternoon. Hopefully it looks like that tomorrow. One more check for the injury update for the Rapids, who's in and who's out for tomorrow. And I don't see that yet. There it is. It just came in. All right, Rapids. Reggie Kane is still out. Ted DiPietro actually had shoulder surgery. I got an email from Rapids Communications about that. Connor Ronan's still out. And, of course, Miguel Navarro and Jackson Travis, they'll have to sit out the game because of red card last week. Out for Houston, Artur, lower body out. Lucas Halter, lower body out. Jack McGlynn, lower body questionable. Sam Vines has been on the bench the past couple weeks. We'll see if he plays tomorrow, Saturday afternoon against the Rapids. Cole Bassett obviously started the game a couple weeks ago when Portland came to town. So we'll see if Sam Vines has any, maybe not revenge, but just, they play a little harder against their own team, their old team for the Rapids. So that's the update for those kind of matches. Thanks for listening to Rapids Rant. Find us, as I said, TikTok, Blue Sky. We also do YouTube and Twitch. Just search for Mountain Time Sports Report on those two services. You can watch the show live or download the podcast. I produce it. There's a lot less dead air during that time. Me looking up things, I go in there and I put the music on and all that kind of stuff. Thanks to Roberto, host emeritus, for putting that on the internet. So if you've listened this far, God bless you. And as always, vaya con Dios.